Mister, we have seen rapid antigen testing used widely for some months now in Europe, in the United States. We're waiting till November 1st for them to roll out here. I ask you this in the context of the antigen testing, but it's also relevant, I guess, to the other approvals. Do you think the pandemic has highlighted too much red tape within our health bureaucracy?
Well, I think what we see is we have 9 rapid antigen tests approved for home use and over 30 approved for medical supervision. We've actually moved incredibly quickly. The ordering in relation to masks, gloves, gowns, goggles, the ICU development, the capacity to process the vaccines, to make decisions with regards to the treatments such as molnupiravir and other important medicines. These are critical, and we've been able to do that. We've halved the approvals process for medicines on the PBS, almost halved it in our time, and that's been a really significant achievement. But Australians also want to know that their medicines and vaccines are safe. That's been a hugely important part of the uptake of vaccines in Australia, that people understood they were safe. They had faith in our regulators, and so I think we have one of, if not the best regulator in the world in the TGA, and the fact that they are of such high quality but expeditious gives people confidence, and that leads to uptake.
Now, we will be able to travel internationally after November 1 without exemptions, without declarations with Home Affairs and so on, no exemptions needed. What about the other way around? Are you comfortable with tennis players, no matter how good they are, if they're unvaccinated, coming to Melbourne for the Australian Open?
Sure. So 2 principles here. The re-entry into Australia is for people who are double vaccinated, and then there are exemptions, as there have been, for people who are not vaccinated who would have to go into hotel quarantine. And so that would depend on an application from the state, and it's entirely a matter for Victoria if they do that. If they do that as a critical workforce or major event, as we've done with other sporting events, then we would be happy to do that. But they have to have 2 weeks quarantine, and it's a matter for Victoria whether they impose a no jab, no play rule. That is their call. But our job is to make sure that it's only double vaccinated people who are able to enter the country, with Australians prioritised first, without having to quarantine. And if there are those that are deemed by states or territories to be critical for major events or for workforce, but they haven't been vaccinated, then they have to do 2 weeks quarantine.
All right. And in terms of the no exemptions for overseas travel, would you urge WA, Tasmania to start reconsidering their own borders, given we will be able to travel to Singapore in early November, but not Perth?
Oh, look, obviously we're encouraging all of the states and territories to open up as quickly as possible. The roadmap milestones are about permitting and allowing Australians to return to the free movement, which is our natural human right. And that's the important thing. The emergency provisions that have been in place are just that. They are emergency provisions. They are against the history, the tone, the tenor of Australia, necessary under the circumstances, regrettably necessary. And I say that as somebody who has signed the biosecurity orders for international travel. So I'm not being critical of it, but I do recognise that these are restricted emergency provisions, and as soon as possible, we'd encourage the full free movement of fully vaccinated people throughout Australia.